What an absolute pleasure to be here in the southeast of England, here in Kent, just overlooking so many towns here. We have been hiking all along this absolutely fantastic terrain, and what a joy to be here. Hi, hello, how you doing? My name is Phillip O'Connor, and it's just such a glorious day here in England. And I want to wish you well and welcome you to my YouTube channel. If you have not yet subscribed, I strongly want to encourage you to do so, to like, share the videos. We have had so many thousands, over 20,000 views of the channel, so we need some more of you to subscribe, to like, and to share. Thank you so much, and I look forward to sharing these moments with you on my channel. My name is Phillip O'Connor. Thanks for joining. Blessings to you. Wow, what an absolutely fantastic time to be here in Kent, and guess who is with me? Oh my goodness, what a welcome, our dear Deniz Skip. How are you doing, Skip?
Yeah, doing well. Better to be out here in this lovely countryside.
Wow, this is so good. So you're here with me in Kent just for the weekend, and how is it so far? You have gone to quite a few places.
Yeah, the weather's been beautiful. So it's been a lovely time.
When you get home, we're going to be having a little chat with you about your brand new book, your publication. Going over a year now, is it?
2 years.
2 years, wow. Have a little chat some more about your book, what it's about, what inspired you to write it, and the storyline, etc., etc. In the meanwhile, you want to say hello to anyone?
To all my dear friends still there in Jamaica, God bless you all. I miss you.
Thank you so much, Skip, and we look forward to talking with you some more.
Okay, Phil.
Wonderful, thank you. Good morning, what a joy to be here, and of course to welcome to Kent my dear former teacher, Deniz Skip Onac. Hello, Skip, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you. I don't feel old enough to be your teacher, Philip.
Well, I mean, what's the history? You came to Jamaica in when?
1971.
Right.
And it was supposed to be for 1 year, and eventually I stayed in the Caribbean for 24 years.
Amazing.
So you never know how life is going to pan out and what God has in store for you.
Wow, that's amazing. And of course you taught physics at the Frankfield High School Comprehensive, now
Edwin Allen
right.
Comprehensive.
And you taught me physics, I think, in year 9. That would have been in 78, 79, somewhere there. So you want to tell us a little bit about your teaching experience at Compre?
It was very interesting because when I arrived there was no physics lab.
Wow.
And so I temporarily had to share with biology, and clearly that wasn't a very favourable arrangement. So I spoke to the principal, Mr Latty, and I said to him, I really need a teaching room, a physics laboratory. And he said, to my surprise, that in fact on the original plans there had been a physics laboratory on the floor above the biology lab, so that would have been the 3rd floor. But it was left off when they finished the building so the school could open. The physics lab was temporarily left off.
Wow.
So I begged him and said, oh, Mr Latty, see if you could use your influence to get the building finished. And I think me and Mr Latty got on really well because, believe it or not, within a year the physics lab was built.
Wow, it's amazing.
It was beautifully furnished with teak workbenches and stools.
I remember it quite well.
and there were facilities like gas supply, water supply, everything in place, ready to go. So by the time I decided to stay on for a second year, I had all the facilities. And I'm sure that beautiful environment to teach in helped to sway my decision not to return to the UK after 1 year.
Oh, come on, that's absolutely fantastic. But I'm sure there are other things that came in the works. So, of course, you had the Scout group, you have Sonic, and we talk about love as well.
Yes, well, the book, which
we're here to talk about, yes.
Yeah, The Colour of My Heart, is really a story of the whole experience in Jamaica from 1971 to 1985. And of course it revolves around the town of Frankfield, which is dear to my heart. And as Philip just said, within a year I was running the local school scout group, which grew and grew in size. And a lot of my dear friends that I have today are members of the original scout group, like Harry Battick and Philip Robinson and William Gordon and lots of others.
Lots of others, yes.
But I think that music was probably the second most important thing after teaching physics. And I'm happy to say that my dear father back in England was willing to ship my drum set out to me in Frankfield so that I could continue playing the drums, because I'd spent many years playing the drums already. And as soon as I got the drum set, a new world opened, and I was being asked to play in churches and at church conventions. And I started to play with a reggae band called Third Generation.
Right.
And that was a very, very good. There were some brilliant musicians there, and we used to go on stage concerts and back up lots of Jamaican artists. And I did that for a number of years. Now, when I wasn't teaching physics, I was probably playing music.
And I still remember, you know, those Friday evenings after school when you set up the band. I think it was Sonic Salvation at the time, and you'd be playing from the teacher's cottage, and it's just amazing the sound that used to emanate there from. And I did have the pleasure of working not only with our dear friend Dr. Floyd Antonia, who headed up the cultural vibration group at the time, the folk aspect of the school music club, but also to work a little bit with you with the Sonic Salvation. But all of that is in this book, The Colour of My Heart, and I wanted just to tell us a little bit more about your book. And there's the aspect of love which is included as well. So if you don't mind, you could just share a little bit more about your book, why you wrote it, who is it intended for, and what's the message?
Right, the book is basically a love story. Now, when I was growing up in England, I was growing up in a very rural setting in Derbyshire, which is northern England. And interestingly, it was a totally white environment, in the sense that I never really got to see or interact with any black person. So when I went out to Jamaica, to Frankfield, and now everything was reversed now, because I was the oddity, the white man.
You're ethnic minority now.
The minority. And all of the people around me, my friends, my scouts, my musician friends, they were all black. And so it was quite a big adjustment to reorientate my thinking to fit into the culture and merge with the black friends that I had. And around 1975, I met a very beautiful black lady who came to teach at the school. Philip's showing you the picture on the front of the book. And I suppose I fell head over heels in love. But Joan, the lady in question, she was a very committed Christian. And so she was determined not to get in any relationship with a non-Christian. So I suppose this put me in a dilemma, because at that point, and I was still playing with the reggae band and doing all sorts of things, I wasn't a Christian. So I decided, in the interests of pursuing the relationship, it was time for me to get to know in depth something about Christianity. So I started going to the local church, Church of God.
Yes.
I started to join and participate in Bible study groups, and anything I could, any discussions I could get into to broaden my knowledge of what it meant to be a Christian, I tried to do. And I remember, I think it was December 1976, I finally decided to give my heart to the Lord and to become a Christian.
Wow.
And God just did so many miracles from that point onward in my life. One of which, of course, was that He enabled the relationship between Joan and myself to blossom, and so much so that we decided in 1977 to get married.
Wow. While you were both still teaching at Compre.
We were both still
teachers.
teaching at Compre,
Yes.
or Edwin Allen Comprehensive High School. And we
So
got...
what was that like? I mean, to be married to your colleague, how did the students take it at the time?
Well, I think a lot of them had been expecting it for some time.
Okay, got you.
And I don't think it was any surprise to the staff or Mr. Latty or my friends. And certainly, I don't think it was a surprise to the members of Sonic Salvation.
Okay.
Now, here's where my musical interest changed direction, because up to this point, I'd been putting all my energy into playing with the reggae band and the reggae, playing the reggae music, which I still love, but I decided that I was going to form my own gospel band, Christian band, and focus on that.
Yeah.
And of course, Philip was one of the early musicians in Sonic Salvation Gospel Band.
Yes.
And over the years, we improved and enlarged, and we started to do recordings. And we were on the
albums, of course.
That's right.
Yeah.
3 of the albums here on the back of the book.
Yes.
We were on the television stations. I think was it ZNS and JBC. We did a foreign tour to Cayman Islands, and Sonic Salvation. The people in the band are still some of the closest friends that I have in the world, and periodically we meet up. Or
you have your WhatsApp group now?
And we have a WhatsApp group
yes.
where we converse with each other and send photographs and messages almost on a daily basis. And of course, Philip is one of the key members there who also participates in that distant reunion.
Indeed.
And
it is a pleasure, yes.
One day, hopefully, we'll all meet up together in one place at the same time.
I know, and remaster the LPs.
Well, yeah, that would be a brilliant thing.
But it's an absolute pleasure, one, to be in touch with my former teachers from, over 47 years ago, probably, and also to be asked to write a tribute for Skip's book, which is a great pleasure and honor indeed. So you left Jamaica, you went to the Bahamas, you were a head teacher there for a while?
Yeah, I stayed in Jamaica till 1985. And just before we left, God blessed us with a son.
Wow.
David. And we were just elated because, we got married in 1977 and we didn't have any children until 1984, actually, David was born.
Wow.
And it was just a different phase of our life. And one of the unfortunate things at that point in time was that the Jamaican economy was really going through a rough time. And I think because the then Prime Minister, Michael Manley Jr., he was very friendly with Fidel Castro.
Political issues there.
Politically, and I think the Americans and people in that continent generally, they were afraid that Jamaica was going to become communist like Cuba.
Yes, yes.
And so they started to put the thumbscrews on the Jamaican economy and detouring tourists from coming to the country and limiting the amount of bauxite that Jamaica could ship to the American continent, and it devastated the economy. And you know, it's so sad looking back, because at that point I was seriously thinking about getting a piece of land, building a house, settling down and remaining there for the rest of my life. But both of us being teachers and having a young infant to look after, economically it wasn't working out. And I remember, Philip, we had a transit van which we used to call the chariot, which was we used to carry
all the equipment,
and the musicians and the singers to various concerts around the island. And one, to fill the van with petrol, because the petrol cost just went up and up and up, and to fill the van with petrol almost used up one complete salary of one of us. And I just thought, this just isn't working out economically. And so with a very heavy heart, Joan and myself decided that we were going to have to try and find alternative employment elsewhere. And we made the very, very, I suppose, disappointing decision to leave the island which we'd spent I'd spent the last 14 years.
It's quite a while.
Yeah, and it was a wrench. I mean, it tore my heart to go, and I'm sure Joan was the same. But God opened up doors for us, and we both got jobs at a Christian high school in the Bahamas. And within a year, I was asked to be principal, high school principal of that school.
That's amazing.
Absolutely amazing. It was the last thing in the world I was expecting. And yet, the school did so well. I mean, it just blossomed, and students were getting scholarships to go to American universities. And we were participating in the inter-school sports competitions and winning in all the different sports. And the school was active in drama and music. And we were doing concerts, and some of the musicals we put on were on such a big scale we didn't have the facilities to put it on at the school. And so we rented the Bahamas, I can't remember the name of it now, the National Theatre to put our performances on. And of course there we had all the sound system and lighting and stage facilities we needed. And there was a group, with a Christian group within the school, which an English teacher called Paula Angel was running. And that group went from strength to strength, and even went on a foreign trip back to the UK to proclaim the gospel and the love of Jesus Christ to people in England.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. But I think one thing I've mentioned is the number of Jamaican teachers that you have actually recruited. And
when I became principal, I knew that a number of my Jamaican friends still in Jamaica, and some of them who were in Sonic Salvation Gospel Band, they were also looking for opportunities to try and spread their wings and teach somewhere where they could be remunerated on a scale where they could live with a certain amount of comfort.
Yes.
And so I, in consultation with the school administrator, Carol Harrison, I started to inquire if any of them would be interested in coming to the Bahamas to teach at the school. And within the space of 2 or 3 years, we must have had about a dozen Jamaican teachers teaching at Kingsway Academy, where I was principal.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And of course, since a number of them were also ex-Sonic Salvation band members, that enhanced the concerts we were able to do, and it was almost like starting over all over again with Sonic Salvation.
Amazing. It's amazing. And of course, after that absolutely fantastic time in the Bahamas, you had to come back to the UK, and you've been here a couple of years now.
Well, eventually, when David reached the end of primary school, which he did at Kingsway, and got an absolutely fantastic primary education, it was obvious by then that he was amazingly talented musically. And we thought long and hard about where it would be, where we could live to give him the maximum opportunity to develop his musical skills. And eventually we decided the UK, to go back to the UK would be the best thing to do. And so again, reluctantly, we left the Bahamas, and this time it was leaving the Caribbean completely, going back to the snow and the rain and the winters of England.
Especially Derbyshire.
And we decided, we actually went back to Derbyshire, where I had grown up before going to the Caribbean initially. And we went back. We didn't have a home to go to. We didn't have any jobs for either myself or Joan. The only thing we had was I had arranged for David to start as a secondary school student at the same secondary school that I had gone to years before. And fortunately, my mother, very kindly, who was that time living by herself, my father having died, she offered to put us up in the old family home where she was still residing, and we lived there for a couple of years until we were able to get our own home. And eventually, after quite a lengthy period, I managed to get a job teaching mathematics. Joan got a job teaching, I think, English and religious studies. And so we carried on with our contribution as educators.
Indeed, yes.
And I have to say, compared with the roles we had in the Caribbean, teaching in England was hard. There wasn't the same level of discipline and cooperation, and just, I don't know.
Would you say that's general or just the school you were in? Was that a cultural thing at the time, or just you say it's kind of specific to?
I think it was both.
A little bit of both.
I wouldn't say that there were no good schools in England. That would not be true.
Yes.
And eventually I got into a really lovely school and finished off my teaching career there, Denstone College. But I think there were a lot of schools, particularly state schools, which were not getting the funding and the facilities which they really needed to blossom.
Right.
And so we made what contribution we could and worked very hard. And I know that many students whom we taught back in England are still grateful to this day.
Oh yeah, sure they are. On social media you have all these contact from time to time. And of course, as this saying goes, charity begins at home. And you mentioned David. And David, of course, has what, 2 master's degree?
Yeah, David just went on from strength to strength. He got I think 5 A stars in A level. Went to Cambridge.
Yes.
Got a Master of Arts and a Master of Philosophy. Then he went to the Royal College of Music in Manchester and got a Master of Music. And then at the University of Manchester got a doctorate in musical composition.
Yes.
And while he was doing all of that, he also got a distinction in his diploma of music, the practical exam that you have to do for that. So he's got as many qualifications as he could count, basically.
Doing his choir and of course composing and all those wonderful things, performing his compositions.
Yes.
And doing all the work. And of course, you and Joe now retired.
We're now retired. I wrote the book, The Colour of My Heart, during COVID because, of course, we were all locked in at home. You couldn't go out, you couldn't do anything. And so I thought, well, I've had all those wonderful experiences in the Caribbean. If I don't use this opportunity to write about them and get it in print, the memories will fade and the story will be lost. And so I spent a year writing the book, and then I spent a couple of months trying to find a publisher, and eventually I found a very lovely lady in London who had recently started a new publishing company, and she agreed to publish the book. And believe it or not, David, our son, he served as editor for the whole book and did a really brilliant job.
Given all the things he had to do. But this is so absolutely fantastic, Skip, as you wrap this up. And what final words would you like to say about the book? Who is it really for? And what's the key message you'd want to...
I would say, because the whole book is centered around the love story of Joan and myself, along with lots and lots of exciting adventures and things which happened during those 14 years from 71 to 85. The book is intended, I would say, for anybody who likes a good love story. It's for adults as well as teenagers. It is a book which also explains how I became a Christian. What else can I say about the book?
Equality, diversity.
Yes, I think one of the key things is this, Philip. Joan is an expert on the history of the Caribbean and all the involvement of slavery and so on, which happened in the past. My book focuses more on the future. And I'm a firm believer that if we're going to make the world a better place, we need to drop all of the barriers of race and colour and start merging together. So I'm a very, very strong advocate of interracial marriage and relationships, and we've been married now for almost 50 years. And the Lord has blessed us, and I hope that if you read the book, you won't be reluctant to get into a relationship with someone of a different colour or from a different culture, and it will help to make the world a better place. So that's the sort of far-reaching message I'd like the book to provide.
Well said. And of course the book is on Amazon, and Skip does do book signings as well, particularly in the Derbyshire and other areas, but the book is going all over the world. Past students are promoting it, and of course available on Amazon. But what a joy to be here with my former teacher, and as a teacher myself, who followed in the path of education, and it's what now, 42 years for me since I left Michael College, now Michael University.
Wow.
And to have seen over the years a lot of my own students who are my good friends now, and some are in different areas of life, from education to the legal profession, accounting, finance, politics, and it's just amazing. And I think it's just an absolutely fantastic opportunity to spend some time with you, Skip, both for us in Derbyshire and you here with us in Kent, and we do exchange vacation from time to time over the last 22 years or so since I, as a British citizen, return and relocate to the United Kingdom. So a final word from you. Of course, I did mention the book and where you can get it. It's The Colour of My Heart, a true story of hope, perseverance and love. And what a joy to share in this absolutely fantastic experience of sharing this book with you. So a final word from you, and if you want to say hello to anyone, Skip.
To all my dear friends still there in Jamaica, God bless you all. I miss you.
Thank you so much, Skip, and we look forward to talking with you some more.
Okay, Phil.
Wonderful. Thank you.